Good morning, milady. A light voice broke through into my deep sleep. Time to rise. I peeled open my eyes to see my maid, Tabitha, placing a tray of tea on my end table. She was a young woman of around 22 or 3, a human whose family had served mine for several generations. She had grown up in the castle, much like myself, just in a different location. Good morning, I said, sitting slowly in my bed. I rubbed my eyes in an attempt to shake the sleep from my fuzzy mind. The dreams from the night's slumber had already slipped from my mind's eye, leaving the vague memory of only trees and laughter. Tabitha squeezed a lemon into the brown liquid and stirred it with a small silver spoon. Carefully, she offered me the warm cup. I took a small sip, hesitantly. My maid watched me while nervously wringing her hands together. Is something wrong? I questioned. I found her composure to be more troubling than I liked. Tabitha glanced around as if checking for infiltrator ears. She leaned close to me. Word is that there was some kind of fright last night. A raid of some sort in the slums. The Knight Commander took a complement of his guard to investigate. A mother said that she heard some screams of some sort of battle in the dead of night. Her voice was a whisper, but it was also filled with fascination. I could always count on Tabitha for gossip. Do you know who was involved? I asked, concerned and intrigued. No, my princess. Some of the kitchen staff is saying it was an Androholan assassin that was caught plotting to kill the king. Would that be so bad? I thought to myself. Another thinks it was some escaping mages, Tabitha mused. She glanced out the window. But you must get dressed for the day. Up, she ushered. I stood and stripped of my sleep dress. If they were mages, there would have been some explosions and such, do you not think? I expressed as Tabitha laced my corset up. I held my breath as it squeezed me. You do have a point, milady, she said. Not mages, then? She grabbed my sky-blue dress from the wardrobe and helped me work into it. You suppose a peaceful rebellion of some sort has been found? I asked. I bit my lip, waiting for her answer. I don't know, milady, she laughed. That's nowhere near as interesting as an Androholan assassin, though. She brushed out my icy blonde hair before pinning it back. I crossed my arms, thinking. That would make sense, though, I mumbled. Why are you dwelling on such things? Tabitha asked. The knights have taken care of it. We are all safe. I suppose so. If you are really so curious, princess, ask your knight. I'm sure he would know more than I could offer. I just nodded at her. We spent the rest of the time in silence as she helped me get ready. I was in deep thought and worry. By the time I was done, I had a nervous twitch as well. I will see you in a few hours, princess, Tabitha said, trying to smile at me. She exited the room, pausing to speak with someone to the right of the door, before vanishing down the stone hall. I stayed sitting on my bed for a moment before sighing and walking from the room, bracing myself for the calming breakfast with my father. Princess, a voice addressed me as I moved through the threshold. Are you all right? I glanced into his blue-gray eyes. I sighed. He was Sir Bastian Redmond, 22, human, and heir to a dedicated line of knights who had served my family as long as we had been in power. The eldest member of the family trended as the commander of our castle knights. Bastian's father was the current leader of the order. Tradition dictated the eldest son of the family would become a squire to their father at the age of 12, and by 20 would be completely ready to take on the responsibility of full knighthood. The serving king would induct the young Redmond into the Royal Knight Order. The Redmond Knights were usually given some of the most important tasks, responsibilities, or missions, preparing them for their future as Knight Commander. Bastian's role was no different. He was my personal guard, but to me, he was much more. Bastian and I had been friends since we were children. We had been through everything together, done everything. The older we got, the closer we became. Our relationship was my most treasured, and I would not want anyone else watching over me. Bastian, I whispered quietly, Do you know who it was that got raided last night? He sighed. Father, I mean, Commander Redmond will not discuss the occurrence with me. He told me that it was not my concern, since it does not involve you, and I am not an officer. I sighed. Hopefully it is not her. Just keep your ears open. I will inquire about it during breakfast. Maybe Father will tell me. Yes, Princess. He touched my arm quickly in an attempt to calm the unrest he knew was stirring inside me. Shall I escort you to the dining hall now, my lady? Yes, please. Bastion escorted me to the dining hall, as he did every morning. He left me under the watch of the patrolling knights before excusing himself to go have his own breakfast. The dining hall was a huge room of stone, decorated in sapphire drapes and crystal chandeliers holding unlit candles. Golden sunbeams flooded through the wide windows, casting a warm hue to the room. In the center of the room was a long table made to seat 50 people. Most of the time, only a fraction of the seats were filled, housing most frequently only my family and the other nobles of Marenhall. There was a smaller family-sized dining area as well, but it had not been used since I was a child. I was not exactly sure why, but I assumed it was because after a certain point my father grew impatient with us and decided having the other nobles around would be a great break from us all. Some of them even traveled from other parts of the city just to feast with us every morning and night. But when the king extended an invitation, one did not turn it down. This meant that there were about 10 people or so there each morning, give or take. That particular morning, the table was booked at about half capacity, due to some Lord Legionnaires' arrival. He had come to Marenhall to talk to my father about some mining operation going on in his region. His wife, mistress, and troop of daughters. It was comforting having more people there. It made it less likely that my father would have some sort of episode. It also meant that it would be easier for me to ask him about the occurrence the night before. "Oh, Princess!" one of the Legionnaires' many daughters called to me. "Your dress is just amazing. I wish I had one so elegant." I glanced at the girl, recognizing her as Chrissy, a girl only a few years younger than me. She had been trying to be my friend since their arrival here, but it was best not to. I smiled at her nonetheless. "Thank you, Lady Chrissy," I said as gently as possible. She looked like she wanted to say more to me, but I just walked by. Quickly, I took my spot on my father's left, beside my brother. "Ah, good morning, my daughter," Father said before taking a sip from a jeweled goblet. Marthas Boleyn was a man of luxury. As king, he had the resources to dress himself head to toe with the finest silks, satins, gold, and jewels. I had never seen him wearing anything less than an armful of bracelets, fingers wrapped with rings, and thick gold chains hanging from his neck. Physically, he looked about as common as any elf. He was thin and tall like most of the men of my people, with the same black hair that half of us grew. He wore it long, as was custom in our aristocracy, with the front pulled back out of his face and clipped with an emerald tie. "Good morning, Father," I said gently, as our icy blue eyes met. I looked over at Akin, in order to break the exchange. "Brother," I added. "Sister?" he replied, smiling at me. Akin looked like a younger version of my father. He had the same hair, but shorter, and eyes, but brighter. His wardrobe was turned down. He did not have a desire to appear so flashy. He wore only a signet ring and necklace that my mother had bought him when he was a kid. He was a nice guy, but a little nervous, especially around other men. Though he was older than me, I felt years ahead of him. I could not really imagine him ever taking my father's place as ruler. He was too soft, and my father was too hard. Avis was certainly in trouble. A servant brought me a plate of bread and fruit. She filled up my cup with milk. Anything else, milady? She asked. No, thank you, I said, smiling. I ate a grape, trying to act as nonchalant as possible. I wanted to ask the drilling question, but I did not want to seem too eager. There were a few moments of silence in which my family and I simply feasted on our morning nourishments. Lord Regenier Davison tried to spark conversation with my father, but he was called away by an assistant of his saying that there was some pressing business that he needed to attend to immediately. The dialogue stopped there, giving me the opportunity to ask my question. However, it was Akin that spoke up. "Where is Lord Jonas, father?" he asked. "He is attending to a little issue we had in the lower wards last night. Some of the servants were talking about that," I added, acting as if I was just carrying on a normal conversation. "What happened?" Akin leaned forward as if curious. "A small branch of what appears to be an uprising was found out by a group of knights. It seems to be a lot larger than the small section that we found. Lord Jonas is helping Knight Commander Redmond in the interrogation of the captured parties." "Any specifics, father?" I probed. "Just that the leader appeared to be a hideaway mage. From what it seems, he was not the leader of the operation, though. Our beloved centaur is trying to force them into giving up the names." I sighed, a breath of relief knowing that they had not found her. "Yet, let us hope that they do," Akin said before taking a sip of whatever was in his cup. "Not," I murmured under my breath before taking a sip of my milk. I glanced around the table, thinking for a moment. I needed to see her tonight, to warn her, just in case. Maybe she could get out of town before they found her. I scratched my arm anxiously. "My king!" a loud and obnoxious voice called from the doorway. I gritted my teeth at its sound. "Lord Jonas," father said. He waved him over. Lord Centaur Jonas Admir ran Marenhall, and served as my father's right-hand man after the death of his last one. He was an elf of about 30, with long hair the color of black and eyes a dim green. He was a man after my father's heart, acting in a way as his protege. The two had very similar personalities, which was not a good thing. Jonas had proved himself cruel in his judgments and attitude. There was only one person I despised more than him. Lord Jonas was also my fiancé. The deal was made almost a year back. The decision was made for me, as per tradition for women of high class, especially a princess. "What did you find out?" father asked while Jonas took his seat at my father's right. He smiled a huge smile with a hint of sadism. "I found a lead," he proclaimed as if he expected applause. "Nothing is certain yet, but Commander Redmond has some men looking into the matter. We should have an outcome of worth by tomorrow morning. Hopefully it will take us right to the leader." "Do you know how big this little, branch of traitors may be?" father questioned. Jonas shifted in his seat. He took a drink. "From our findings so far, it seems that it has not grown too large, and has certainly not spread beyond the walls of the capital." "Good, that is what I like to hear," my father cheered. He toasted the centaur with a huge smile filled with victory. "I am happy that you handled it, my boy. It could have been handled by the city guard and knights, but you got the job done." "Nonsense, your majesty. This was a matter of your security, and that is the most important thing to me." Butt kisser. It appeared that I had less time than thought. I needed to talk to Bastian. I had to see if he could find out anything more. I stood from my chair. "Father, may I be excused?" I asked. Father squinted. "Why, my dear?" Jonas grabbed my hand. He did it in a fiancé concern for his bride-to-be sort of way, but he squeezed my hand far too hard and forcefully. He seemed to not want me to leave. This place was a viper's nest. I glanced around. "Oh, I I promised Chrissy that I would show her my wardrobe. I pronounced my lie confidently. I glanced over at the Legionnaires' daughter, who was looking back at me confused. I winked at her. Yes, she did, she said excitedly. And I have to meet with Lady Trella at noon and about some of the wedding arrangements. Father glanced at Lord Jonas, who in return released my hand. He would not want me to miss a date with his mother. The wedding was approaching rapidly, and the sooner it happened, the sooner he would have claim to the throne. He would not want to hinder anything that benefited the process. "All right, my dear. Have fun," Father said. "Right. Thank you, Father." I moved away from them, but paused to say goodbye. "Brother, my betrothed," I said, nodding at them both. I paced from the group quickly, trying to assure that they did not stop me. I snatched Chrissy's hand and dragged her from the room. I was happy to get away from the clan of snakes, but irritated that I would have to deal with the outcome of my lie. But I needed to talk to Bastion. I had to help her and get her away from the catastrophe that would follow my father's attempt to secure his reign.